There's a river that flows through the heart of Scripture like no other. Its waters parted for an entire nation. Its banks witnessed miracles of healing and prophetic power. And in its gentle current, the Son of God himself was baptized while heaven opened and the Father's voice thundered. The Jordan River isn't just a geographical feature in the Bible. It's a place where heaven repeatedly touched earth, where God demonstrated his faithfulness across generations. Today, now let's explore why this river matters and what it teaches us about our own spiritual journey. If you've ever read through the Bible and noticed how often the Jordan River appears at pivotal moments, you might have wondered, why this river? What makes it significant? It's a fair question, and the answer reveals something beautiful about how God works in history. Here's what I want you to understand as we begin. The Bible isn't just a collection of abstract spiritual truths. It's rooted in real places, real geography, real history. And when we understand the places where God acted, we understand his character more deeply. The Jordan River appears at some of the most important moments in Israel's story, and ultimately, in the story of Jesus himself. Each appearance builds on the ones before, creating a tapestry of meaning that speaks across the centuries. Today, we're going to trace this river through Scripture. We'll see what happened at its banks, and we'll discover the theological themes that emerge. And we'll consider what the Jordan River teaches us about transitions, obedience, and new beginnings in our own lives. Let's begin with the geography. The Jordan River flows approximately 156 miles from the slopes of Mount Hermon in the north, through the Sea of Galilee, and down to the Dead Sea, the lowest point on Earth's surface. In Hebrew, and the name Jordan comes from the word meaning to descend. The river drops significantly in elevation as it flows, making it a natural boundary marker in the ancient world. For the Israelites wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, the Jordan represented something profound, the final barrier between them and the Promised Land. Everything God had promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob lay on the other side of that water. In Joshua chapter 3, we read the remarkable account of what happened when Israel finally arrived. Joshua 3:15-17. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, and while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. Notice the details. The river was at flood stage, at its most impassable. And God didn't part the waters before the priests stepped in. They had to step into the water first, while it was still flowing. Only then did God act. There's a principle here about faith and obedience. Sometimes God asks us to step into the uncertain waters before he parts them. The miracle comes after the obedience, not before. And Joshua then commanded the people to take 12 stones from the middle of the riverbed and set them up as a memorial. Why? Joshua 4:21-24. In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, "What do these stones mean?" tell them, "He did this so that all the peoples of the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God." The Jordan crossing wasn't just for that generation. It came as a testimony for all generations, a permanent reminder that God keeps his promises and that his power is greater than any obstacle we face. Centuries later, the Jordan River would witness other remarkable events, this time involving two of Israel's greatest prophets. In 2 Kings chapter 2, we read about Elijah and Elisha approaching the Jordan together. Elijah was about to be taken up to heaven, and Elisha refused to leave his mentor's side. 2 Kings 2:8. Elijah took his cloak. He rolled it up and struck the water with it. The water divided to the right and to the left, and the two of them crossed over on dry ground. The same miracle that happened for Joshua and the Israelites happened again for Elijah and Elisha. The waters parted. The prophets crossed on dry ground. After Elijah was taken up in the whirlwind, Elisha returned to the Jordan alone, picked up Elijah's cloak, and struck the water himself. 2 Kings 9:4. He struck the water with it. Where now is the Lord? And the God of Elijah? He asked. When he struck the water, it divided to the right and to the left, and he crossed over. The Jordan became the place where prophetic succession was confirmed, where Elisha demonstrated that the same Spirit who empowered Elijah now rested on him. But here's what most people miss about these stories. The Jordan River isn't just a place where miracles happened, it's a place of transition. Joshua crossed from wilderness into promise. Elisha crossed from apprentice into commissioned prophet. The river marks the boundary between one season and the next. And there's another Jordan story we need to consider, one that speaks directly to humility and obedience. In 2 Kings 5, we meet Naaman, a powerful Syrian general who suffered from leprosy. He came to Israel seeking healing from the prophet Elisha. But Elisha's instructions offended him. 2 Kings 5:10. Go, wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be cleansed. Naaman was furious. He expected something dramatic, the prophet coming out, calling on God's name, waving his hand. Instead, he was told to dip in a river he considered inferior to the rivers of Damascus. His servants reasoned with him. If the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you to wash and to be cleansed? Naaman humbled himself, went to the Jordan, dipped 7 times, and was completely healed. The lesson is profound. God often works through simple obedience, not spectacular displays. Naaman had to humble himself, follow instructions that seemed beneath him, and trust that God's way was sufficient. The Jordan River became the place of his healing, but also the place of his spiritual transformation. He returned to Elisha confessing, "Now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel." All of these Old Testament events point forward to the most significant moment in the Jordan River's history, the baptism of Jesus Christ. Matthew 3:13-17 records what happened. Then Jesus came from Galilee to the Jordan to be baptized by John. But John tried to deter him, saying, "I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me?" Jesus replied, "Let it be so now, and it is proper for us to do this to fulfill all righteousness." Then John consented. Jesus, the sinless Son of God, came to be baptized, not because he needed cleansing, but to identify with humanity, to inaugurate his public ministry, and to fulfill all righteousness. And then something extraordinary happened. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water. At that moment, heaven was opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." Heaven opened. The Spirit descended. The Father spoke. The Jordan River, the same water that parted for Joshua, that divided for Elijah and Elisha, that healed Naaman, became the place where the Trinity was revealed together. Father, Son, and Spirit, united in this moment of commissioning. Now stay with me here, because understanding this connection transforms how we read these stories. And there's a pattern running through all these Jordan River events. Joshua led Israel through the Jordan into the Promised Land. Jesus, whose name is the Greek form of Joshua, would lead his people into the ultimate Promised Land of salvation. Elisha received Elijah's spirit at the Jordan to continue the prophetic ministry. Jesus received the Spirit at the Jordan to begin his ministry of redemption. Naaman was cleansed of leprosy in the Jordan through humble obedience. And Jesus offers cleansing from sin to all who humbly come to him. The Jordan River isn't just a recurring location. It's a theological thread connecting God's saving work across the centuries, all pointing to Christ. So what does this mean for us today? Let me offer you 3 takeaways to anchor your understanding. First, God works through real places and real history. Our faith isn't built on myths or spiritual abstractions. It's rooted in actual geography, actual history, actual events that happened in a specific river in a specific land. This gives us confidence that the God who acted then is still acting now. When you read about the Jordan River, you're reading about a place that still exists, a river that still flows. The same God who parted its waters and opened heaven above them is the God you serve today. Second, the Jordan teaches us about transitions and obedience. Every major Jordan event involved a transition. Wilderness to promise. Apprentice to prophet. Sickness to health. Private life to public ministry. And in each case, the transition required obedience. The priests had to step into the water. Elisha had to pick up the cloak. Naaman had to humble himself. Jesus submitted to baptism. If you're facing a transition in your own life, a new season, a difficult decision, a step of faith, the Jordan stories remind you that God often asks us to move before He parts the waters. Obedience precedes breakthrough. And third, everything points to Jesus. The Jordan River's deepest significance is found at Jesus' baptism. All the previous miracles were previews of the ultimate reality, God coming in human flesh to save His people. When you study the Jordan River, you're not just learning ancient history, you're tracing the story that leads to Christ, and that continues to unfold in your own life as you follow Him. If you came to this video curious about the Jordan River's biblical significance, and I hope you're leaving with a deeper appreciation for how God works through real places and real history. If you came wanting to understand Scripture more fully, I hope you've seen how these stories connect and how they all point to Jesus. Because here's what I want you to carry with you. The God who parted the Jordan for Joshua is your God. The God who confirmed Elisha's calling is your God. The God who healed Naaman through simple obedience is your God. As the God who spoke from heaven at Jesus' baptism is your God. He is faithful across the centuries. He keeps His promises. He brings His people through the waters into the places He has prepared for them. Whatever transition you're facing, whatever obstacle stands before you, the same God who acted at the Jordan is with you today. He is not finished with His work in the world, and He is not finished with you. If this study deepened your understanding of Scripture, and I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe, we're committed to content that strengthens faith through careful biblical study. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear which Jordan River story resonated with you most. And until next time, study faithfully, walk obediently, and trust the God who parts the waters.